I was lucky with Peter Parker when I came up with that character because he seems to have struck a chord with so many readers. And I think it's because he's probably more like a regular person, a normal person, than any other character. And I try to make him that way because I guess until Peter Parker, no superhero or no superhero's alter ego had ever had to worry about making a living, getting along well with girls. I always enjoyed doing things where Peter Parker had to become Spider-Man and go over there in order to save the world or the city or Mary Jane or somebody. But at the same time, Aunt May needed her medicine or she might die. And the only place to get the medicine was in the drugstore over there. But Peter had to do either one of those in the next 5 minutes. And there wasn't time to do them both. And what would he do? And I tried to come up with as many situations of that type. In fact, there was one story I know I wrote where he did. He threw his costume in a trash can and he walked away. Said, I'm giving it up. And you hadn't seen that in Superman or Batman.
It's not my problem. I don't care anymore. I'm done.
As stated by the great Stan Lee, Spider-Man is such a fantastically written and portrayed character because of the relatability factor. Within so many multiple events with his life, hence why some of the greatest Spider-Man movies of all time are Spider-Man 2, are Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because at the end of the day, those movies were able to realize that letting a character be human and focusing more on the human aspects of that character will always be way better than focusing on the spectacle and focusing on the grandeur of what a superhero is capable of, because a lot of movies have done that and a lot of movies will continue to do that. However, I'm quite happy that Spider-Man No Way Home was the movie in the MCU to really show that Peter Parker cannot fix all of his problems just because he got bit by a spider. Legitimately, almost everybody loves this movie.
While talking about the action, I thought the action was great, especially in my recent rewatch of Spider-Man.
Spider-Man No Way Home is setting records at the box office.
I love Spider-Man. It doesn't matter if the last movie was the worst thing ever, I will watch the next one because I am a simp.
If you go on YouTube right now, you go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok, legitimately, Spider-Man content has been better than ever. Obviously, if we're going to go all the way back to December, that is where the hype was most there. But I'm not going to hold you. Spider-Man's up right now. Spider-Man is up right now, especially Tom Holland after he just did that Uncharted movie. But regardless, Spider-Man No Way Home gave the world one of the first times in fictional movie history where three versions of a character interacted with each other in live action. Something that has genuinely never been done before. And they did it in such a tasteful and such a true Spider-Man way that looking at all of the online reactions, every single person in so many cinemas was so excited to see the older two Spider-Man, and with great reason. And at the end of the day, Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't change the whole system of a typical superhero movie, but brings something so satisfyingly unique when it comes to this specific character. And I feel like that's what this movie does the best. This movie is a Spider-Man movie without a shadow of the doubt. No matter whether you think the scale got too ridiculous, no matter whether you think it got too complicated with the amount of villains, every single Spider-Man fan loves this movie, and that's what matters. they saw their target audience and they said, we're going to give you exactly what you want. And that's exactly what happened. Peter Parker finally stopped relying on Iron Man to fix his problems and fully became his own man. He went through serious tragedy. Not saying that the death of Tony Stark wasn't a true tragedy. Looking at his reaction in Far From Home and how it was used as more of a plot device than them actually showing him grieving, seeing how much he has to push himself and continuously accepts more and more responsibility in this movie made me feel as if that this character became less of a stereotypical good person and more like, this is Spider-Man. This is the Spider-Man that I've known for a very long time. I'm so happy that Tom Holland was finally able to show the version of the character that so many people relate to. The version of the character that Stan Lee especially wanted to portray the most. Now, in terms of it being a typical superhero movie, let's be very, very real here. Spider-Man No Way Home is top 5 best Marvel movies, no question. It is not a question, it's a fact. It's top 5 best Marvel movies. In general, people are comparing this to Endgame and people are calling this the best Marvel movie. Now, was that partially because of the fact that we were deprived of a lot of hype Marvel movies due to COVID? And a lot of what they first dropped, like Shang-Chi, like Eternals, was kind of a slow burner. No hate to Shang-Chi, by the way, because Shang-Chi was actually quite fun, not gonna hold you. The point is that if you look at every single basic superhero movie, if we make a chart right now and we tick things off, Spider-Man No Way Home meets every single requirement for a basic superhero movie, and then goes beyond that and hits the most crucial mark, the most important mark, the emotional mark. We see the hero in question having to go through hardship and having to come out and still do the right thing, even when it hurts them the most and it doesn't benefit them the most. Like, let's be very real here. How many people would have genuinely said, let me let the entire world forget about me, let me let all of my remaining friends and family forget about me, just to save the world? Big man thing. How many of you lot would have actually done that? I can't lie, I would have done it, but I would, long day. Definitely have to pray about it. But yes, in terms of legitimately every single thing that you are looking for a Spider-Man movie, I genuinely can't think of one thing that this movie lacks when it comes to portraying the character of Peter Parker / Spidey / the amazing / the spectacular Spider-Man. I can't think of anything. I can't. Looking at how impactful Andrew Garfield's performance was and how because of his performance in this movie and because he finally got a good script and was able to truly show his capabilities as an actor. Now, the entire internet is saying that they want an Amazing Spider-Man 3 because of how well of a performance that was. So shout out to Andrew Garfield for doing so well. Obviously, Tobey Maguire, genuinely most people's experience with Spider-Man as a character in general coming back is one of the most nostalgic and one of the most happy feelings I've ever had watching a movie in my life. There are very few movies that make me jump out of my seat, and this was one of them, multiple times. There's so much to talk about this movie in terms of plot, and there are so many other channels that have done that, so that wasn't really what I was quite interested in. I was just a lot interested in talking about the impact of this movie and the impact that it will have for future Marvel movies. Because if you guys haven't realized, ever since Spider-Man No Way Home came out, a lot of Marvel properties in the future are looking a lot more grounded. We're looking at a lot more grounded, real stories, while also having that smidge of fantasy in it. Look at Moon Knight. Moon Knight right now has had to wage Disney Plus's PG rating up because of how serious that whole entire TV series is. However, Moon Knight fans that love that show, it's only been 3 episodes, but my god, that show is incredible. And I'm saying this for a whole fact. If people did not like the darker themes that Spider-Man No Way Home was showing in this movie, Moon Knight would not be as popular as it is right now. The influence of allowing that version Tom Holland's version, the MCU's version of Peter Parker, to genuinely struggle with his morality in a very serious manner, where everybody watching that movie would have had the same struggle as well, is the reason why people love this character and people love this movie. It's just wow, man. It's just wow. But yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home is top 4 best Spider-Man movies of all time. Not even a question. If people want to fight me, fight me. You can fight me in the comments. That's your own business. Yeah, 100%. Well then, I guess now it's time to talk about a movie that I actually think is better than Spider-Man No Way Home.
I saw this book by Leonardo da Vinci when I was 13, and da Vinci had a quote, "Your bird shall have no other wings but that of a bat." And he actually, there it was for me, a Batman.
Fascinating portrayal of this character. Most critically though, it's a powerful moment of resilience for both characters, particularly Batman, who begins to come to terms with how wrong his notions of vengeance truly are.
I was halfway through, I looked at my girl, because we have kids, can't go to the movies. I looked at my girl, I paused and hold up. Is this not the best fucking Batman you've seen?
It's a great Batman.
It's so good.
I thought it was the best one, but
it's up there.
I can't wait to talk about this movie once we've all had time to sit with it. I can't wait to deep dive into this world as soon as possible.
There are very few movies that I give a standing ovation to twice. There are very few movies that I wait all the way to the end without knowing if there was going to be an end credit scene or not. And there are very, very few movies that have made me feel the way watching The Batman made me feel when I first watched it. I watched this movie 3 times. Uno, dos, tres. The first time I watched it was by myself. And if I'll be entirely honest, it was like somebody looked into my brain and said, I will give you the Batman movie you have always wanted for the past 10 years. Legitimately. And I know I'm saying similar things to what I said in the Spider-Man section. But genuinely, any Batman fan that watches this movie loves this movie. Whether you got into it from Batman the Animated Series, whether you started liking Batman from the Arkham games, whether you started liking Batman from even Justice League Unlimited, Teen Titans Go. In general, this movie is a love letter to all Batman media. Period. There's no... I don't know how else to describe it, from the similarities to Batman Year One, where he starts talking by saying the date. And even as the movie slowly goes on in the beginning and he comes back to the Batcave, you see him write down everything that he just monologued to himself from the past 20 minutes when you first start the movie, after the Riddler scene. Speaking of the Riddler, my god, does Paul Dano kill it in this movie. And frankly, I genuinely believe, and I've always believed, that the Riddler was always one of Batman's best villains because of how it pushed him mentally. And Paul Dano's version of the Riddler definitely pushes Batman to such a mental high in this movie. And the evidence of it is throughout the entire movie, based on how many riddles there are, the complexity of the riddles, the ciphers, everything. Paul Dano's Riddler was so intriguing that it made me genuinely think what was going to happen next throughout the entire movie. It kept me guessing for a good chunk of time. And I know some people complain that the mystery was a little bit too obvious, and I'm not gonna lie, that's the minority. To me, I was confused. To me, this nigga juked me, 100%. I mean, to be honest, I think the perfect example for why Paul Dano's Riddler really is such a good interpretation is based in this line alone.
It was all there. You're really not as smart as I thought you were.
And frankly, he is, in general, one of the best parts of this movie. Obviously, Robert Pattinson's version of Batman is a semi-realistic, yet also somewhat strange version of the character. You know, the persona of Bruce Wayne is almost as depressed and detached from reality as the persona of Batman. They are one and the same. He hasn't figured out how to be able to fake him being happy while being Bruce Wayne. He's still Batman, regardless of where he is. And I watched an interview about that, and the way that Robert described it as how unrealistic it would be for you to have these two personas when trying to figure out everything that's happening in your life, and your one main mission, your one purpose, the one thing that you equate to your parents' legacy, which is so beautifully written and insane to think about. Honestly, Matt Reeves, man. Matt Reeves is a legend. He's so good. He's so good. And I guess as much as people will compare this movie to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, at the end of the day, The Dark Knight is the best Batman movie. However, Robert Pattinson is the best Batman. It just is what it is. He is Batman, especially with what we've gotten recently from Ben Affleck. As much as Ben Affleck's Batman's performance was slightly limited based on the script that he had, let's be very real here. Who felt more like Batman other than the amazing combat scene in BVS? As well as with this movie, there are so many things with the plot, so many beautiful scenes, the cinematography, the car scene as they show multiple angles to show the velocity of the car, the fact that the Batmobile sounds like a jet turbine as it starts up, the fact that in general how clumsy Batman almost is as he fights. He's not fully used to it yet. He doesn't fully get it. He's not this perfect, can't get touched, can't get hit Batman that so many people are used to. And I appreciated it so much because I was like, yes, everything that they're going for, they're hitting so well. It was almost scary at some point in time. I was like, when is this movie going to miss? When is it gonna not work? When is it going to like mess up? Where's the issue? And there wasn't an issue. There wasn't a problem. It just kept on getting better and better and better. To be honest, like, The Batman really is just a good detective movie that so happens to be a love letter to almost everything Batman. I mean, this might be a big statement or not, but I'll be entirely honest. In my opinion, The Batman is in that league of superhero movies that would just be good movies without the superhero aspect. I'm talking Logan, I'm talking The Dark Knight, I'm talking on that level. Genuinely, I truly believe that. Even just looking at how Selina almost has to give Bruce a reality check, that the reason why people commit crimes and do these things aren't because they are inherently bad people, but mainly because they come from such a bad background and situation. The fact that Bruce has to realize his privilege and truly think beyond himself when being Batman. In fact, to also realize how much of a negative effect that he had while leading down the path of vengeance. To such an extent that one of Riddler's goons tells him after Batman legitimately breaks his face so much, legitimately, he says, "I'm vengeance." And the fact that Batman becomes a guiding light of hope, and he realizes that hope should be one of the driving factors and a key driving factor for his mission to save Gotham, is so poetic. It brings everything together, because at that point in the movie, I was really hoping that wait, they're missing some of the points. They're too focused on vengeance, and I was almost scared that they were going to go the whole vengeance route, the entire thing. But Matt Reeves did it. He linked everything back to feel fully like Batman with the hope. And he did it in such a nice way. Shout out to Robert Pattinson. Shout out to everybody that was an actor in this movie. Unlucky with Zoe Kravitz and how, like, that whole Jaden Smith thing, that's a bit off. So now, like, nobody really rates her. She's still Lang though, but yeah. Unfortunate still. Unfortunate. And I'm not gonna lie, seeing the fact that a movie like The Batman was able to be made in this day and age really shows just an evolution of superhero media that will have a lasting effect for years to come. These are both two different movies trying to do two different things based on two different characters. However, the one thing that they both do is adhere to their audiences and show a very, very emotional yet fantastic portrayal of these characters. However, there are certain ways that you can portray a character that may lead the audience to not be able to connect, relate to, or have any real emotional connection to, which is unfortunately what happened to DC and Zack Snyder's Justice League verse, at least until the Snyder Cut. Which is so interesting because as much as Snyder's interest of not trying to be like Marvel and being very unique was very clear, some of the other DC movies unfortunately decided to go down that route. DC trying to be Marvel and trying to make everything a linked, connective story that was slightly funny and had a lot of interesting, awkward tension and humor isn't DC. It's not their thing. It's not what their characters do. Yes, DC can be funny at times. I think Aquaman was a funny movie, not that good of a movie, but a funny movie. I think Wonder Woman tried as well. But in general, the heights of what DC have been capable of doing in terms of comedy and the best of DC trying to be like Marvel is still the worst compared to what Marvel has done being themselves. And finally, now that we're seeing DC be themselves, we are seeing them continuously progress in making better and better movies. E.g. The Joker, e.g. The Batman. It's as simple as that. And The Suicide Squad as well, that was a fantastic movie. For sure. Now then, I guess the question is, why do I think The Batman is a better movie than Spider-Man No Way Home? And the reason is that The Batman was so refreshing. The Batman felt like a comic book reader actually made this movie. Not to say that Spider-Man No Way Home wasn't appealing to any comic book fans, because there were so many references and Easter eggs and everything, but I guess Marvel have been taking W's for such a long period of time throughout the superhero movie game, and it was just nice to see DC take such a deserved win in general, finally. And if I'll be entirely honest as well, I definitely like the cinematography more in the Batman and how it's shot and how certain scenes are done in general. So it's not based on characters. Like, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero without a shadow of a doubt, no question, hands down. However, in terms of both of their portrayals in their respective movies, the Batman just hit more for me. It just did it better for me. For real. DCS. Deuces!